evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm meadsy69. Welcome back to the channel. Does DPM matter? Now, DPM is a big stat. It's a stat that everybody looks at in the game when they are getting a certain tank, and it's one of the first things that pops up when you buy a tank. What's the DPM? But does DPM really matter? I mean, it's a hit and miss. It's basically a yes and a no. It all depends on what kind of tank. Obviously, you have tanks like here. You have the Death Star. It has really low DPM, but it does have that high alpha gun. And of course, you have medium tanks that I believe DPM matters with medium tanks. Any other tank really, like TDs, heavies with armor, tanks with armor, or TDs with big guns, I don't think the DPM really matters. It's not about the DPM with these tanks. So I think when looking at stats, you really need to ignore stats on these kind of tanks. Medium tanks, as I've said, yeah, DPM is absolutely crucial in my opinion, but as for everything else, it's like TDs, it's more about the big guns, and heavy tanks, it's more about the armor profile. So we are going to have a few battles for you today. We've got one in the Death Star, we're going to have a light tank battle as well, and a medium tank battle. So, but before we start talking about this battle, I do have to thank everybody for your ongoing support. It means a lot to me. The replays that you guys send it in is sometimes amazing replays, but over the next few weeks the replays will die down quite a bit. I do have a few on YouTube ready to like a few OP replays ready to release, but after these are released, replay videos like Hold My Beers and stuff like that will die down for just a little bit, because as you are all aware, most of you should all be aware, my wife is due a baby in 2 weeks time. So she's due a baby in 2 weeks time. It could come anytime. The baby could come anytime. So obviously when the baby does come, I'm going to have some time off. I'm going to have some time off work, probably some time off YouTube as well. So that was a nice shot. That was a lovely shot there. So I'm going to have a bit of time off. The footage will still be there because I am in the middle of making quite a few videos. So the videos are still there for when I do have this time off. And during this time, during the 2 weeks that I'll have off, I'll probably do some, for a week of it, I'm probably going to do like a top 5 week. And then the next week, I'll probably do like a World of Dummies week, because I have that content already there. So it'll be quite easy to make. So yeah, so that is ongoing. Obviously, I'll let you guys know when this is and when she has the baby. But let's get back to this battle, as it is almost over. So as we are aware, as I've already said, DPM is nothing really in a tank like the Death Star. If you can get those HE shots off just like that in the Death Star, then it already does pump up your DPM using that HE. The DPM is actually massive, but even without the HE, something like a Death Star, the E100, the Jaegeru, it's not really about DPM. And that's why I say don't really look at DPM on these kind of tanks. So there's just 2 tanks left alive now. He's going to get behind and he's going to get a nice HE shell into him. And he's gonna nice little fire. So I think I might have already, I'm not sure if I already have, but I may have already shown this replay. I really can't remember. My yeah, I'm getting old, but I wanted to show the Death Star anyway, because the Death Star is a classic example of low DPM. So it's like really low DPM, but it still does a massive amount of damage, as we can see there, another 1300. So when you've got a sort of 20-second reload and you're doing 1500 per shot, then that massively pumps up the DPM anyway, and you could do this kind of damage. But with medium tanks, it is obviously I think it's a lot more important. Light tanks, it's a difficult one for light tanks, because again, light tanks is not just about DPM. It's about the spotting. It's about getting there early, opening the enemy team, and letting your team know where they've got to go. So that is your job as a light tank, is basically go spot the enemy team, and then your team can make that decision. Do they go left? Do they go right? Etc. And then you can then make the decision whether you stay in that position that you've already spotted the team, or if you need to use the mobility of the tank just to get back and go the other side of the map and maybe possibly get around behind them. But of course, just because tanks have low DPM, it really doesn't matter. You can still do the big damage. I mean, the Mouse, for example, the Mouse has low DPM, the Kranwagen has low DPM, but we always still see those massive damage games. And the same with this tank here, the T92. It has low DPM, but it does have that big gun, that big alpha gun that can cause a lot of damage. And this is what we're going to see here. We're going to see a big damage game from Toblerone. I absolutely love the Toblerones. Do you like the Toblerone bars? They're actually one of my favourite chocolate bars, Toblerones. I do love a good Toblerone. So he's doing his job. So he's got the damage out. He's dealt some damage to the Batchat. He's going to deal a bit of damage here to the T54E1. But as I've said, the main role of a light tank is to spot the tanks early, but no one really, a lot of people don't use these tanks as they're supposed to. Most people use the light tanks as a standard medium tank. Yeah, you can get the spot early, but it's very rarely you see light tanks now go into sort of the middle of the map to open up the team and then sort of getting the hell out of there, relocating. Usually they just stay, they fight like a normal medium tank. So our guy Toblerone, he's doing just that. And again, he's up against a medium tank here, and he's up against a light tank. Obviously the Batchat doesn't have the best of DPMs, and I suppose the T54E1 doesn't have the best of DPMs because it is a auto loader, and of course auto loaders generally have low sort of DPM anyway. So he's staying to fight, and he's dealt almost 3k damage at the moment. This guy is basically a one-shot. The T54E1 is probably a two-shot, maybe a clip for this Batchat if you can get all 3 shells out. So he's now going to wait with his team. I mean, there's 3 light tanks on this team. There is no medium. I mean, there's 1 medium tank. So it's not too bad. If you all stick together, it's not too bad as using these tanks as sort of your standard medium tank. But you've got to remember, if you do come up against these medium tanks, especially in tier 10, if you come up against the Leopards, the T62s, they are going to out DPM you. No matter if you've got a big gun like this T92, they will out DPM you because they have a massive amount of DPM, and that sometimes comes important when it is a standoff between you and another tank, especially if it is a 1 versus 1. That DPM then is very, very important. However, if you're up against a tank like a T62 and you're in an IS4, then it's not really about the DPM. It doesn't matter if you've got a much lower amount of DPM because you've got that armor profile, and that's where then instead of using your DPM, you need to use the armor profile of your tank to try and get the bounces, and then you obviously if the tank bounces a few shots, it will lower their DPM as well. So we're going to just watch the remainder of the game. He's done a brilliant job so far, 5,000 damage, he's on 2 kills, and now he is able to get behind this guy. Of course there is the Object 704 which he has just spotted, so he's in a sticky situation now where he has to move out, he has to find a different location to go, and he is heading towards this Kranwagen because he can get behind, he can load up the HE, and he's able to do nearly 700 damage. He does take a shot from the VK72, but with just 2 tanks left alive, the Object 704 which is now occupied, and this VK72. So he is able now to use that mobility to get to the side of him, get behind him, and again deal a big amount of damage with that high alpha. So he's just going to stay around. He was intending to run away to try and deal with the Object 704, but at this time he may as well just sit here and fight the tank that's not looking at him, rather than go for a tank that is quite, I wouldn't say at a distance, but he's not in any danger whatsoever. But the Object 704 is going to take out the Batchat. I'm not sure how a Batchat can't circle this guy in this position, but it's perfect for our guy Toblerone because he is now able to get to the side of him and get the final kill. So 3 kills there, and again, it's not a tank with massive amount of DPM, but he still manages to end on 8,000 damage. Nice amount of XP as well. So GG there, Toblerone, and thank you Cougar for sending me that replay. So next up, again, we are going to have a look at a tank that DPM does really matter, and that is the Leopard 1. Now the Leopard 1 is the highest DPM medium tank in tier 10, possibly in the game. It got buffed a while ago, a very slight buff, but it did get buffed. and because of that little buff that it got, it has now made it the highest DPM medium, which I love. I absolutely love, because it is my favorite tank in the game. It has that mobility. It doesn't have the armor, however, so again, when you are up against tanks, yes, you are going to out DPM them, but you got to bear in mind that you've got no armor. You have absolutely no armor. So if they HE you, if they can get the HE out on you, then that will dramatically increase their DPM, probably then higher than yours. So you have to bear that in mind. But yeah, having a tank like having the DPM on the Leopard 1 is really, really important. I love it when you can sort of, especially tanks like E100 or Jaegeroos or anything sort of slow, love perma-tracking them, and that's where DPM does really come important. Perma-tracking them, so by the time they can reset their tracks or amend their tracks, they are then just sitting there detracked again, and that's a fun style of gameplay. I absolutely love perma-tracking tanks. It winds them up, it really annoys the players, and when it happens to you, you just want to literally throw your device out the window, because it is very, very annoying. So 2,100 damage so far from Defender here. Absolutely, he's going to have a great game, and I love seeing these kind of games in the Leopard 1. So he's going to ignore that guy, and he's going to go for this Leopard 1. He's trying to keep this guy alive. Now, I'm not sure why this Leopard shot him instead of E50 when he could have actually cleared the E50, but he went for the HE shot. He went for the damage. That's why he ignored the E50. He went for the damage, he went for the HE shot, but unfortunately for him, it kind of failed. So he's only lost a little bit of hit points at the moment, and he's on 3,000 damage, nearly 3,300 damage. And now this is where the DPM will come important, not even more important, but just dealing with these heavies with hit points, a lot of hit points, you could deal with them really, really quickly, because they do have a lot of hit points. I mean, 2,544 hit points here for the motion. So DPM is important. So there are players out there, there are people out there, and people always have the mixed views. So you're going to have people out there that will say that no, DPM is not important, and in a way, yeah, it's not that important. But obviously there are going to be people out there that will say that yes, DPM is important. Now I'm in the middle. I am in the middle of that. So, and as I said in the beginning of the video, it really all depends on the tank you are driving, what type of tank. I mean, there's still some TDs out there that is all about DPM. AT-15, for example, one of the highest DPM tanks in the game. The SU-122-54, the Tortoise. These tanks, yes, they are about DPM because they don't have the big gun, they don't have the armor profile, so they need that DPM. Whereas tanks like the E100 or the Mouse, anything like that, yes, I mean, yeah, they're heavies, but you've got tanks like the Jaegeroo or even the Grill. The Grill has good DPM, but it has that mobility, it doesn't have the armor. So it all depends what kind of tank you are playing. Tanks, again, the E3 doesn't have massive amount of DPM, but it has that high alpha and it has the armor. Now, if you have a tank with everything, if you have a tank with armor, if you have a tank with DPM and alpha, then the tank's going to be basically overpowered, or at least nearly overpowered. So to get something, you've always got to really lose something, and that's what the Leopard 1 has. It's got the DPM, but it doesn't have the armor. So you have to kind of lose the armor for that DPM. Now, I don't know what you guys, what do you prefer? Do you prefer armor, or would you prefer DPM? Like, would you prefer the Leopard 1 to be buffed the armor profile, or would you and lower the DPM, or would you rather higher the DPM of the tank but lose all of the armor? So it could, like a light tank, for instance, it could be HE'd anywhere. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What would you prefer? Now, tanks like the Leopard 1, yeah, for me it is all about the DPM. I love the fact that it has no armor, because in tier 10 it just makes you play a little bit different. It makes you be sort of wary about the tanks that you're coming up against, and it makes you sort of think differently about the game, and just makes you think in general what you need to do, where the tanks are, and that's what I love about the Leopard 1. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. This guy, Defender, has had a brilliant game. He's on 8,100 damage now. It's a 2 versus 1, and it's just this E100. He can potentially take a shot, and depending on if the E100 is shooting HE or not. And hopefully this motion should be able to take him out. But no, with his DPM, he's able to reload and get that kill. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As I've said, there will be some OP replays still to come, but they will die down a bit over the next few few weeks, depending on when the baby is due. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Great battles there in some tanks with DPM and not so good DPM. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm Meadsy, and I'll catch you all soon. Bye bye.